Hey, this is Dave Metzger, writer of number 113, Drexel, and you're listening to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Liz, Tom, Red, Nick, they all enter some stormy waters this week. Welcome to the Blacklist Exposed. I am Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson, and you might not realize it, but I'm watching you. Seriously, right now, to your phone. I really like your shirt. Thanks for joining us this week as we discuss number 113 on the Blacklist, Drexel, which aired February 18th, 2016, written by David Metzger and directed by Anton Cropper. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com.
True story, Aaron. There's a lady who actually thought that like her IT department was spying on her through her webcam. And so the IT guys actually like went along with it and actually like wrote her an email and said, "Hey, that's a nice sweater." And then they got fired from HR.
That's funny. If you ever want to freak people out and you want them to think you're actually watching them, always say, "I like your shirt." Because everybody's always wearing a shirt. Well, I mean, I'm not right now, but generally I would be. You know, it's early. We're going to talk about... I'm sorry, did that disturb anyone?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. You feel creeped out? Feel like you need a shower?
Hang on,
kind of like after watching this episode?
I got to put some tape over there just so you can't see me.
Well, before we start out tonight, we want to be very clear. We do not speak, read, or understand Russian or Cyrillic writing. Hell, Troy barely understands English.
Yeah, it's a true statement.
Apparently, when you say Paktoba, as we said last week, it is actually pronounced Rostova. Phonetically, it sounds the same. And I want to personally thank Galia in our Facebook group for clearing that up. I do not speak Russian. This is Russian Space Station. Armageddon joke. Nobody? All right. We have a feeling that we're going to get a little bit more Russian stuff in the show. So if you want to be our official Russian Cyrillic expert, send us a message by visiting goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback. Choose our podcast when you're submitting your name in the hat. We kind of love it when everybody gets involved.
Is Cyrillic nails? I thought it was Cyrillic.
Is it Cyrillic? Man, did I say that wrong too?
I don't know.
Son of a bitch.
Someone will correct us. It's fine.
I'm going to do this whole podcast in sign language from now on. How about that?
It is beautiful, and it did win Red's Rhetoric this week.
So yeah, Paktoba is actually Rostova. I don't know if that changes what you think is in the file because it still could be two names. It could still, I don't know. Does that change how you see the file at all?
It doesn't change it for me, and we actually have some really great responses since that was our profiling question last week.
Ooh, transition, you're welcome.
You betcha, softball right there. Anne says, a psychological report on Rostova. She did go into an ocean after all and disappeared, so $5 says she ended up in a mental institution.
Sonia said, Red requested that he needed to see something in the Glasnost files from the former KGB agent and now teacher. Glasnost means open, or something that is now open to the public in Russian. Oh, this is why we need translators.
Exactly.
I first thought maybe it was some secret code name of a mission, etc., or maybe it just means files that used to be classified but were opened after the Cold War that the agent would have access to.
I also thought it was, and someone could correct me on this, but I thought it was a period of time that happened right at the end of the Gorbachev era, as the former Soviet Union was disbanding into the separate countries. It was like the Glasnost period.
There's a lot of ways this can go, and I think we're going to find out.
Could be. Amy said, I'm leaning toward that they were Rostova's espionage assignments. I'm thinking it is entirely possible that Red was her assignment, and at some point she exchanged sex for secrets.
Whoa.
Though still enemies, thus came Lizzie.
Hey, is that... that's interesting.
I thought that was an implication that Red's still her father.
Yeah, and apparently Katerina's a hooker.
Apparently.
Hookerish. I mean, sells sex for secrets.
Maybe
where I come from, that's still a hooker.
Maybe she's Ressler's mom because she's just doing her job.
Tess, shut up. Tessa said a photo of the real Katerina and that Katerina is not Liz's mom.
Whoa.
Oh, snap, son.
New theory. Put it on the board.
Do we have a board? Can we get a board?
We need a board, I think.
How much is a board?
Actually, I do have a board in my basement here. I got one of those techie board things, but my wife would kill me if I put up, Red's dying and Red's the mother. And
it might freak her out a little bit.
Yeah, Red Rum.
You know what's freaking me out is I'm looking at because we're working with laptops, and I've got a camera on my laptop, and now I keep putting my finger over the camera the whole
I just
time we're doing
holding my
this.
thumb there the whole time.
It's so pathetic. You got me, Metzger. You got me.
Suzanne said surveillance intel on Katerina post-suicide.
Where she came out of the water.
Right.
Joseph said a death certificate.
Oh, confirming death. Okay, that'd be
All
good. Nada J said confirmation that Katerina is not dead.
That would still be getting worse, wouldn't it?
It would be.
Mm-hmm. And Steven said Red's real identity and past.
Oh, because that would be getting worse because now someone knows he's a fake.
If you subscribe to that theory.
Correct.
Right, if you subscribe. All right, some good responses.
Love it.
Now for this week's profiling question. You ready?
Ready.
How did you interpret the painting?
Ooh,
How did you interpret that magical painting?
We're going to get into that. I definitely think so later on in this podcast.
Can't wait.
Now, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so don't judge our work of art too harshly as we discuss this week's case profile.
Look at you with the little segues. All right, well, we start this episode with a hipster artist serial killer taking out one of the heads of a startup. His name's Randy Brenner, and apparently Ramona, a reporter, then runs an article in Rigby advertising Drexel's next quote-unquote show. His next murder, right?
Or his next artistic performance that will get judged very harshly.
There you go. All this stuff leads to Ressler finding a laptop camera in Brenner's house that Drexler is using to point them in the direction of John Addison, who's Brenner's partner. So the serial killer is actually trying to help the FBI in a way.
But the serial killer is using the rat technology that Addison is using for his voyeuristic network.
Yes, and we're kind of jolting through this one a little bit just because we want to get to some of the big questions about this episode. There's a lot of cool stuff, I thought, and really timely. Like, I don't know if Dave Metzger, when he wrote this episode, realized how timely this was going to be with Apple's recent issue with the FBI and whatnot. But hang on one second, we'll get there. So Drexel is also watching Addison, John Addison, which Aram pieces together that there is a remote access Trojan. That's the rat that Troy was just referring to. That's what a rat means. And there's a lot of little nods to rat. There's a mousetrap, as mentioned. There's a couple little nods to rat throughout the episode, which this was developed by the NSA and stolen and then flushed into the private market by Aaron, this wonderfully named fella who leaked this information because he didn't think the government should have access to that kind of technology. And his brilliant idea is, we'll just put it out in the private market, but I'll track it. It's all good.
Yeah, properly named, but not as good looking.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're trying to say I'm handsome.
That's because I'm going to just dig into you later, so I got to get a nice one in now.
That's all right. Right now, you can't see it, but I'm doing a profile shot. What's up, guys? There are hints throughout this episode of Edward Snowden, the movie Sliver, if you never saw that, and even there's a little bit of Dark Knight in here, so there's a little Bruce Wayne.
Just a touch.
Just a touch. So here's the question, okay? We kind of skimmed through the basic plots of the episode so we could get to this point. With the Apple situation that's currently going on, and you can explain that when you answer the question, you know, how it's panning out, but could this episode have been better timed?
Yeah, I don't know how they could have potentially just slotted this one in here. I wonder if this might have even got rearranged given the situation and, you know, John or whoever called up and said, hey, we got to put this one in this week because of what's going on with the Apple and the San Bernardino shootings. This was really interesting because this is exactly the conversation my wife and I were having last night before we watched the episode about should Apple build this back door into the iPhone that could give anybody access to any iPhone in the world. And granted, they're not doing it because they're trying to block this investigation and don't want to help. It's truly the concept that as humans on this planet, there's this inherent nature of a human to do nefarious things. Whether you want to say you're a goody two-shoe, whether you want to say you're perfect, whatever, every single person in the world has the capability of doing something nefarious, which we actually find out in this episode that the NSA did in fact build this quote-unquote backdoor to spy on people, and the guy who actually coded the backdoor ends up being the one that actually releases it to the world. And so it just really comes to show you that even though you have all the good purposes and intentions, in this case what Apple is saying is if we build this, someone will use it for bad stuff. And I think that it's proven case in point in this episode.
Yeah, which shocked me. I mean, obviously they wouldn't have known that was going to happen. So it works out great for the Blacklist because it's perfectly timed, and probably a big reason why I really like the episode. And I like voyeurism. Rear Window is my favorite movie of all time. So the whole concept for me of just watching people, I don't know why I find it fascinating. Probably because it's super creepy, and I may have done it at time in my past. You never know, But I think it's one of those things where, as I watch this episode and plenty of movies I've seen and people I've known in my life, like you said, everybody I know, I think there's been a point in your life, everybody listen, there's been a point in your life where you wish you could see what somebody was doing, right? Even if you meant well and you had good reason for it, somebody's wronging someone you love, or somebody's doing something illegal at work and you just want to be able to prove it. So you wish you could hack in there and just see what they're doing to prove it. People have good intentions all the time, but then you make that technology, it's going to be used for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, I trust you, you're not chatting with somebody or texting somebody, but yet there's that inherent nature that you just want to go grab their phone and just double check to make sure that they're telling you the truth. And Red's even that way when he gets this class notes file last week, right? He's like, I think I know what's going on, but I just got to know, right? So he reaches out and gets that file. And I think that's what we're really trying to decipher in this episode is the ability of people to be able to tell the truth and be honest in that situation, which again then plays into Liz and Nick and Tom's situation as part of the B story.
So much going on. So that really brings me to my big question, which is, how did you feel about this episode overall? I mean, we're going to talk about the characters and a little bit more of this plot, but overall, how did you feel about this episode?
I mean, when you look at it on the surface, it's not anything really, I guess, outstanding from a Blacklist perspective, like an Ansel Garrick or a Luther Braxton or a Berlin or whatever, one of the bigger named episodes. But when you look under the covers, kind of weird, kind of saying with the voyeuristic and the peeping thing.
No, that's not naughty at all, freak.
Yeah, but if you look beneath the surface, there is actually really, really important issues going on here that tie into the entire structure of the show and the structure of our characters. I mean, even Samar with her little, was I overstepping? She seemed kind of put off by Liz's comment when they were back in the locker room. Like, why are you getting up in my business about this? So there's some kind of like underlying architecture that we're supposed to take from this episode. So because of that, I actually notched it up a little bit higher and went more like 8.5, 9 with this one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love... See, I know a lot of people, they like when they get sick and creepy and they have the weird blacklisters and stuff. I like when it's something that can almost feel real. I mean, I like most of them, honestly, but...
Like the troll farmer that was actually really real in real life, yeah. This one was a little bit more cerebral in nature. A good thinker.
Yes, and I like a thinking episode. And I like the idea because for me personally, I've worked in IT plenty of times. You work in IT to a degree. So we both know that this is an absolute possibility. And I think most of the public knows it at this point, after that Edward Snowden thing. But you still don't see people freaking out about it the way you kind of wish they would. So I like whenever this is brought up, and especially because it looks like, the way that the episode ends, where you have this almost like little secret group continuing to use it, it feels like this is going to come up again. Yes?
Absolutely.
No? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think this ties right into where we started out, some of these conversations back with Lord Baltimore about putting your information up in the sky. And because this information's up there, people can access it. And now here there's actually, technology that can access even your local information. So it's all about information, which of course ties into the Blacklist, which is Red collecting information potentially on Rostova in this pending war that's coming.
Yeah. Ha! Speaking of information, let's move on to Rigby and Ramona Flowers. That's not a real name, but I call every Ramona Flowers. Yeah, Scott Pilgrim says, hey.
Yeah.
Turns out that her name is Rachel Hobbs and gets Red in touch with Drexel. This is kind of interesting because it all ends with Drexel caught and John Addison's shady business being brought down, and then we all took showers and destroyed all of our mobile devices. But you've got Red, who basically finds a serial killer, and, lately he keeps killing all the blacklisters. I was actually surprised he let this one live.
Well, yeah, because he wasn't as good of an artist, and he didn't want to paint bullets into the wall behind him, apparently.
The Jackson Pollock joke.
That was so good.
So funny. So I'm I'm kind of... So this entire portion where you've got Red trying to help with this blacklister or find this blacklister was all just so he could find this painting, which we'll talk about later on in the show, but that's correct, right? There was no other reason? It was just about the painting.
Yeah, he was finding Drexel because Drexel was commissioned by somebody to do a painting, and he wanted to know what this painting was and who had it.
Yeah, so when you boil it down to the reasoning behind Red's motivations, it's kind of basic. Like, that's not super complicated. I'm actually kind of curious how he found out about the painting to begin with. I don't know if he said that, I don't remember that, but... Maybe
that's what was in the file.
Hey, there you go. Maybe that was in the file. It's kind of it's a nice reach. But so that's the basic, the overlying plot. Now, of course, all the details came from the characters. A lot of character moments here this week. We're definitely going to get into them, but before we get into the actual characters, we've got our music.
Well,
music, Troy.
Before we go to the music, because I don't think we actually have Ramona Flowers, Rachel Hobbs in the thing here, but did you clearly get the father-daughter call-out issues here? Like, you can protect your dad who has this empire, or you can go ahead and go out on your own. I mean, I thought that was a very clever way of putting that in there for us to, again, think about the father-daughter relationship.
Not really. I was more like, why is Red not breaking eye contact when this girl has no pants on? That was more what I was doing.
Yeah, it's like, don't sleep in a white shirt because you never know when you're going to spill your water on yourself or whatever. Good Lord.
Who thinks of that? All I'm thinking of is like, he never breaks eye contact. He's a very classy individual because nobody watching that show, no guys watching that show were doing that.
Well, and that's a thing, right? Because he's taking care of Liz like a daughter. So, I mean, I think that just shows like he's not like the creepy uncle concept too.
I never thought he was a creepy uncle. I just think he's an uncle.
I swear you said creepy uncle at one point back in season 2.
You know, man, you can't call me out on things I said last year. I don't remember what I said last week. I'm sure somebody will tell me, but I don't remember. Apparently, Proctoba, and I said Proctoba a lot, so apparently I was thinking of a proctological exam. I don't know, but odd I am.
Yes, you are.
All right, what about music?
Yeah, so The Killing Season, the Uncle remix by Mark, I'm going to get this totally wrong, Lanegan?
Mark Snow. Oh, sorry.
No. Okay. The Mark Lanegan Band. Randy Brenner strangled by Drexel in his home and then is positioned on his couch in a manner towards Drexel's, I'm going to say Drexler because I have a friend at work named Drexler. Drexel's artistic taste and then set up for that webcam photo shot. So that was The Killing Season. And then Dear Trouble by Koreatown. Ram states that he doesn't know who sent the footage and where it ended up, while a woman, who I'm sure we'll talk about later, watches the footage. And then Liz watches the old season 1 video of Tom in his adoption interview just as the baby kicks. So Tom and her have to have a romantic moment, and she tells him that she wants to keep our baby.
Shocker! Who saw that coming, huh? Everyone.
Well, that's because Nick offended her. He's like, whoa, you're like pregnant, like way pregnant. It's like, why is she ever going to get back with Nick now?
I think she's going to give birth next week. I mean, she's moving pretty quick.
Yes.
Yeah, she's got to be in her 4th trimester, even though there's only 3. Yeah.
Yep.
And pretty quick.
Those 2 are now on the Spotify playlist, as well as last week's are updated on the Spotify playlist. So go check that out. Spotify, the Blacklist NBC playlist.
Well, do you want to talk? Let's just go ahead and start there. Let's talk about that woman that's watching the footage. What is that group? What do you think that group is?
Well, the group, I think, is just an art exhibit. Clearly.
Is it? Do you think it's an art exhibit or somebody that is using this surveillance technique or this program to do something nefarious with it? Not just to watch people, but they are actually using this information for something.
At the one guy's place, the actual place that had like the gnat wall, if you will, not the gnat wall, the rat wall. The rat wall, that was using it for nefarious purposes. I truly think the dark red club or whatever it was truly an art exhibit, and it was specific that this lady came in, red hair, we won't make an alias comment, and
nice.
She just goes over, and she happens to look at the singular art exhibit, which is featuring all of our friends from the post office. So it's almost like, what was the purpose and who was this information sent to? It was clearly not to collect information about these 2 guys that set up this rat video wall club or whatever concept, ultimate video streaming if you want as many streams as you want. They literally were actually collecting the FBI, the post office, the task force's information as the investigation went on as intel for this person who was the lady that came in, which, of course, people are like, well, that's obviously Rostova, or it could be something else or whatnot. I'm just going to go say I have no idea who the lady is. I'm not even going to make a suggestion at this point because initially I thought Lucy Brooks was Red's daughter. So this could be anybody. But I think that her purpose is to collect information on the task force specifically. That's why the exhibit she went to was the task force's video shots. Okay.
Well, I mean, so you're kind of on line with what I said, which is that this is for nefarious reasons, but you also think that where she went was actually the exhibit, but she wants the information for nefarious reasons.
Right, and that was the way
you're saying?
She was able to commission it, was to get the information through this. Because the question I always had through the whole episode was, why does Drexel want the rat video stuff? That just didn't make sense in the episode until that scene. And then it was like, oh, she commissioned a piece of art, which was in Red's conversation with Drexel. Mm-hmm. And really it wasn't the art painting itself, I think, at the end. I think it was this art exhibit of the video that she ended up seeing at the end. Or maybe he got a 2-for-1.
So you're hoping that there's an extension to what the association is.
Correct.
But you don't actually know that.
I do not know that.
That's just one of your crazy full Heinrichs theories.
You got it.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely, I think well, I don't know. They already had the information, and Drexel isn't a computer tech, so he doesn't, I don't know. I think maybe there's a different kind of guy. I'm kind of curious to where this all goes, but I definitely think the code is going to be used down the road because whoever that person is in that creepy VIP room is going to use that information for something, and I think we're going to find out pretty quick what that is. Dembe was the muscle, as always. He didn't really do a whole lot except, play the muscle. But I love how he took out the Pops guard. You know, the guy who kept calling Red Pops. That was pretty sweet.
That was awesome. And he actually had dialogue this week, too, with Red.
Over
the pufferfish, right? Was it pufferfish or blowfish?
the Fujo Kimo?
Yes.
Yes. Where he found out exactly, what this fish does, which Red didn't end up taking it from Chef Hanzo, but he went there basically to find Ramona / Rachel Hobbs, but he knew all about this poison. This fish was poisonous. So do you think that's actually going to come back up again, that we'll see something about this poisonous fish again?
I want to know why we always talk about fish. We had fish heads in a cooler. We had the jellyfish that can prolong your life. Now we have fish that can poison you and kill you.
Why don't you stop being ADD and come back to my question? Do you think we're going to see this fish poison again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. They wouldn't bring it up in such a nonchalant way, and it was blowfish liver.
God, you're like a little kid.
Is where it came from. So the blowfish liver, which could give you either a really great rush or instantly kill you on contact. It could kill 30 people from one liver, I think he said.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'll come up again. Why point it out and have this conversation unless you just wanted to have conversation with Dembe to fill the space on the page?
It's possible. Both options are possible. But Dembe did a nice number on that guy's shoulder. I'm kind of curious. Do you think Red could have handled that guy if Dembe wasn't there?
I'm sure Red had a gun anyway, so he would have had him like, hey, you don't even reach for yours, and he would have pulled his gun out as fast. So yeah, Red could have taken care of him on his own.
All right. Aram, he identifies all of the rat technology, and I just want to point out that at the end, when they're racing, like the rat at the end, Aram is watching the really hot girl, so I think he might have kept some of this code himself. just a theory. Crazy theory. Because everybody else is looking at like 400 screens. Aram's got the one screen up, and it's the really pretty girl.
And I have to wonder, too, the way that the lights went out on all the screens in sequence, like if there was a reason why certain ones were left on at the end. I don't know if it's zoomed in close enough on the big wall. If that was like a hidden clue in there, maybe we see like a future Blacklister or something.
I was like overthinking it, but you never know.
You like to find the Easter eggs, It could be in there.
You never know. Cooper, and we're really trucking along this week. Cooper didn't have much, but he did have a nice sweet scene with Megan about the baby. I kind of, when he's telling her, hey, it's okay. I mean, this is where Liz finds out that Samar can't keep her big trap shut. Where Samar told everybody that she's not keeping the baby. I like that he had that conversation with her and told her, it's okay. There's no disrespect in that. There's no shame in that. I support your decision. And I think they're a real complementary pair, and I kind of wish Cooper and Liz had more scenes together.
Yeah, and I'm glad they had this in here, but it's almost a nitpick for me because, and this isn't Metzger's fault by any means, or stretch of the imagination, because it's not part of this episode. Mm-hmm. There's a missing link from when she shoots Connolly at the end of season 2, and you have Cooper for the most of the second half of season 2 being this fatherly figure to Liz, and then she's like, if you pull that trigger, this is the Liz I didn't want you to become. I won't recognize you. Then she goes on the run, and now she's back in. Cooper and her have never had the heart-to-heart about what happened during that shooting.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You need that scene as a viewer.
Exactly. Okay. And then they jump right back into him being the fatherly, everything's okay in this scene. So it's like there's almost like that missing linkage of when did they have like the all-out conversation of, do you feel bad about yourself? You change person, something. There's just that missing link.
That's a really good point, man. I like it when you have a really good point. It doesn't happen very often, but when you do, I like it.
That's the only one for 2016. Come back next year.
I know, you're done.
If we're still here, because 2017 is around the corner.
Don't say that, man.
It's in the show. Alan,
I'm just saying 2012 never happened from X-Files. I think we'll be fine.
Hey, when Alan Alda says 2017 is a bad year, I believe him.
Lord. All right, well, Ressler is the only one who doesn't believe that Liz will give her baby up. I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, he really seems to have no doubts whatsoever that Liz is keeping this kid.
That's because Ressler's like, there's no way she's ever going to leave Tom and come hang out with me. So, of course, there's no way that she's going to give up the kid because it's Tom's kid.
Poor Ressler. He had one of my favorite lines in the episode where he was talking to Aaron, the guy who leaked it.
Yep.
And he's like, you had a much better chance of proving that before you ran like a scared little girl. I was crying. I was laughing so hard. I'm like, good for him. He's such a fun guy.
And we should point out that he isn't winning any brownie points with the ladies. We said that last week. And he still hasn't redeemed himself in that conversation.
No, you keep saying
Samar.
Dumb stuff, man.
Shut your mouth, dude.
You're never getting a date again. Oh, I love that he says stuff that he probably shouldn't say, but man, I want you to have a relationship at some point. I don't want you to be stuck alone forever.
I almost wish that we could get Ressler going back out in the field and getting punched in the face because he's literally getting punched in the face by every lady on the planet.
Oh, God, that's so funny. All right, well, Samar, now, I think you and I might be on different sides of this, but she told everybody about Liz giving up the baby, and I get that she had to cancel the shower, but if I worked there, I wouldn't tell her any more secrets, I don't think. What do you think? How do you feel about that? Do you understand where she's coming from, or do you think that's kind of cold?
I would still confide in her, I suppose. I mean, she did break protocol and steal Ressler's computer to save her life. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, I owe you one, you owe me one kind of thing. I just think there's more with the scene, personally. I honestly, she's like, I don't want to have kids. I want to have a career. You don't say that unless you had something tragic happen in your past that you just kind of shove kids completely to the side. Some people might just want to have a career. That's fine. But the way she said it...
Believe it or not, a lot of people actually just don't want kids, man.
Right.
It's really okay.
But it's the way she said it and the timing of her delivery that makes you think that she had either miscarriage or kid kidnapped or something more Blacklisty-like. I don't know. There's just something more to that scene that we're supposed to pick up on.
Okay, so there are certain subtexts there. I mean, there's no shame in her decision. She says that clearly. She said it. This is like the second episode in a row she's made mention of that, okay?
Right.
So there's another mention that women give up children for adoption all the time. So, yes, there is the possibility that maybe she has done this in the past. She knows someone that has done this in the past. Could she be pregnant? And I'm not trying to make everybody go crazy, because we all know how I feel about baby storylines. But could she be pregnant? Because her and Ressler had that little liaison not too long ago. And when her and Ressler are having that conversation, and he's like, women, they just want to have kids, and, they're all about the baby, da-da-da-da. It seems like she's, I don't know. It's the way that they're playing it, that she's playing it specifically, that I felt maybe she's pregnant.
It's very possible. I mean, we made the comment about, if you show romantic sex on the boat, you're clearly going to get pregnant, and boom, they're pregnant. But I think it's also the other side of the coin when you have unexpected, hardcore sex. You also have that same concept come up. So you could be onto something.
So what do you think? Do you think it's possible?
Or
do you think they wouldn't risk that, to have two pregnancies in the same show?
Because we talk about babies and the whole jump the shark moment when babies come on the show. I think if you're going to do it Blacklist style, then 2 babies on the show would be a Blacklist thing to do.
Please explain that, because now I'm lost.
Well, you think that people would be giving, and there are people that still have backlash about Liz being pregnant and the Liz and Tom story, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a little bit. But
guilty.
Oh my goodness! But
sorry,
that's why I maybe lose my thought, because you just in the middle of my thought.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But a Blacklist way to do this would be, instead of focusing on one baby, just go ahead and throw 2 or 3 or 4 babies into the equation, because then it's like it's no longer a baby; it's a plot device thing that you have to actually get through.
I'm really curious where that's going to... I think there's more to that. And anytime you have... Okay, here's my rule of thumb with any television show, right? If you mention something one week, it could just be a comment, could just be a reflection, could just be used to further a relationship between characters. If you bring it up like 2 episodes in a row, there's something coming up. There's a plot point we're missing, we're not seeing yet, is going to be coming up in the next few episodes, so... Keep your eyes open. I think something's going to happen with Samara. I don't know what it is, but something's going to happen.
Right. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Show it 3 times, and it's a plot point.
That's one way to do it, George W. All right, so Dr. Nick is now part... Oh, I do want to mention Samara's... Okay, so they find Aaron, and Ressler goes chasing him, right?
How did she get into the... I still cannot figure it out. I watched it 3 times.
Here's the thing. Everybody loves that moment, right? It's a great moment, and the fact that she still has her scarf on, like she's fashionably kicking his ass, that's cool. But I'm like, he chased him for a good, 3 minutes across the entire building. And then, goes to the fire exit, closes the security door, all this other stuff. I'm like, how did she get there? Is she Batman now? Is she scaling around the windows? How'd she get there?
That's why she's friends with Aram. She's like, beam me up, Aram.
Apparently. It's like, it's just so... I mean, and granted, she was not behind Ressler. She didn't follow him the whole time, so she could have, done whatever. It was just one of those... It was like a Jason Voorhees moment. I'm like, how did you get through the woods and get behind them? How was that possible?
She clearly broke off, and you're like, okay, she broke off. She's going to stop him because he's going to go one way, and Ressler's going to, trip or fall or whatever. So you knew it was coming. But you're like, then it's still going, and it's still going, and it's like, how is she going to catch up to him? And then, boom, there she was, and it was like, how did she get there?
And I rewound it a couple of times. I'm like, the only option I can see is that she ran to the fire to where the stairwell was and just waited. just hung out. She's like, Ressler, your dumbass can chase him all over the building. I'm just going to wait because he's only got one place to go.
So Aaron was actually trying to do figure 8s through the office and then came back to the stairwell that she was at the whole time?
It had to be. Well, most buildings are going to have one major stairwell, maybe 2. So maybe she just ran to the stair. I guess that's a possibility.
We're gonna have to
it seems a little ridiculous.
We're going to have to start coining these hashtag 24 moment.
Oh, man, it was pretty funny. I liked, even though I loved the moment, I'm still like, how did you get there? It makes no sense. Did you teleport? Oh, funny.
The look on her face, too, after she punched him was priceless. She was like, I'm loving this.
Mm-hmm. She enjoyed it. So did you ever think you'd see Dr. Nick again?
No, actually, I didn't. I mean, I knew he would be somehow tied to Red's network because of saving Red's life when Red got shot in season 2. Obviously keep him on the payroll kind of thing. But the fact that Nick would be there when Tom just happens to be rolling in, right? Convenience of television for storytelling. But it's like, I think it works. I think this is the conversation they're having of, how do we escape Reddington? And Nick's like, you don't, because I'm still here too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Man, I like that. I didn't know. Did we know he was on the payroll when he was in there last time?
I thought there was
new?
something at the end of right at the end of that episode when Red was still healing up or whatever. Maybe Kaplan approached him because the other doctor ended up getting shot or couldn't make it or something. And that's why Liz called Nick to come in to help.
Right.
So I think there was some mention of it that he was, going to be part of the group.
Well, I did like that we came back and, he feels trapped, and so they could have that allegory to Liz's relationship with Red. That was nice. And I kind of like Nick. So I was kind of hoping maybe Nick's going to take care of her and they're going to off Tom, but it didn't happen. So just kidding. Just kidding.
I really loved when he was like, "Oh, don't worry, it'll be fine. We'll take care of it." He's got the insider track now.
Yeah, he's like, "I got this. I got this."
Nick's gonna completely tell the Diamond guy, "Dude, it's cool. He's awesome." I was like, "How is he gonna pull this off? What does he know?"
Yep, and that's a nice segue to Tom. Wow, Red, you nailed this one. I am not your Tom problem, Lizzie. Tom is your Tom problem. Yes, Thank you. That's what I said last week. Tom is the problem. It's not an issue with anything Red's doing, which everybody keeps blaming Red, but Tom keeps doing dumb stuff. He's just, like Red said, he's reckless.
So is he truly reformed, or is he a Tom problem because he hasn't actually reformed? He's still playing the character.
Man, he's his own problem. I don't think, there are people in the world that are just, they're damaged. Whatever the case, we're all damaged to some degree. But there are people that the only thing that they ever do is get in their own way. Tom is one of those people. This character is written like every time he has a shot to do the right thing, he does something dumb that puts him back in a bad situation. He's that guy. He's a guy that shouldn't be anyone's father, but a lot of people shouldn't be people's father or mother, end up being parents. I'm just saying that that's the character he is. He keeps screwing things up, not necessarily intentionally. He thinks he's doing the right thing, but he's never really doing the right thing. Make sense?
For someone that really doesn't like this baby storyline, you're talking about moms and dads and kids and stuff this week.
Well, they've been talking about moms and dads and kids a lot in the last few weeks. I don't know if you noticed. But he dodged another bullet as Red got to Clerkin, apparently. I'm kind of curious how he convinced this guy, who was painted as a real sadistic madman last week, how he got him to flip.
Oh, easily. Red had something on Clerkin, or Red needed Clerkin, or Red paid Clerkin, to whatever the value of the diamonds were or something. Obviously, there was connection between Red and Clerkin that they needed each other, so Clerkin agreed. So at the end of the day, when we said, was the diamond heist and the whole thing set up by Red? Probably not, but in the end, it was all about Red and Clerkin tied together. So you could get like a half a point if you said Red was involved with Tom getting shot.
Yeah, I suppose. It was one of those things where the way he was painted to me, I don't know, man. It just seemed like that was a little bit of a stretch. I think it's, to me, man, I don't know. How many bullets can this guy dodge, really?
Yeah. And the Clerkin showing up and just say, "Oh yeah, Tom, I hope you're okay." It was a little unbelievable in that situation. I can buy it. I can buy it, and I can see how it fits into the Blacklist, but it is a little bit of a stretch.
It's one of those things where I buy because I like the show, so I'll buy it.
Right, exactly.
But if we were in the really real world, I would have a hard time with that one.
Yeah,
that one was a little bit of a stretch, but it is what it is. Do you think Clerkin will come back? Do you think his role in all this is done? Like that was the part he played?
Well, it's like 3 episodes and we've been talking about him, so maybe he's done. I think he could come back in.
Okay.
I mean, we saw the Russian consulate guy hooking up with his reporter friend in the shower. He came back. Obviously, Brimley shows up from time to time. Nick has come back now. So yeah, I think anybody's potential to come back. How you work it in, I don't know. But maybe they go back to Africa with a Dembe story, and that ties into diamonds somehow, and it's tied into Clerkin, and Clerkin becomes a blacklister at that point.
Could happen. We're going to come back to Tom kind of here in a second. But that's basically what happened with him. But we'll have some more to say about him in regards to him and Liz. But we'll get there. So Liz, I'm not part of this Rain on Liz club. I like Liz. I know there's what seems like a vocal minority. Kind of remember season 2? We're getting a lot of that again.
I believe it was exactly this time last year.
Yeah, it was almost exactly this time last year. And to refresh some fans' minds, about this time mid-season 2, there was a lot of vocalization about complaining on how Liz's character was being written, that she was being too whiny, too
ungrateful,
etc. And now we're getting similar complaints now. I mean, I've seen this a lot. I wouldn't even mention it if it's just a little bit. It's been a lot. So how do you feel about that, I guess?
I hate to say I'm going to chalk it up to hormones, but I'm going to chalk it up to hormones because, I mean, literally she goes from one side of the coin being like, "Oh, I can't stand you. I can't take your money. And you're really just in my life and you're annoying and we want to get away. And did you hurt Tom? It's your fault." And then it goes all the way to the end of the episode. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you saved Tom's life. You're my hero," and kisses him on the cheek. You don't go 180 like that unless something is helping you go 180 like that. So I say hormones, unfortunately. I hate to play that card.
Right?
I do, but it's the only explanation I can come up with. Because she's literally 180 from the start of this episode to the end of the episode. Because she's so focused on Tom.
She is. And I will say, much like I did last year, okay, and I was a big advocate for let's hold tight, let's let it play out. I said the same thing last year. I'm very much let's see how the season goes. And it came out, people, by the end of last season, everybody, most of the people that I saw were like, you know what, that played out, that storyline actually worked out pretty cool. Liz had a nice ride. Now, I think I am personally tired of the I'm mad at you, now we made up at the end. I'm mad at Red, now I'm kissing Red on the cheek by the end of the episode. I don't think we necessarily need that anymore. But I do, from a hormonal standpoint, get where she's coming from to a degree, and I get the up and down. I do get tired of a little bit of the ungratefulness, but that can be chopped up to hormones to some degree. But I do think, when she's having the going off on Red moment, I think sometimes the immediate reaction as a fan is to be like, oh, stop going off on Red. And part of me thinks that's just her frustration for the situation. And Red, she feels like Red is the only person she can, I don't know, let it out, let it loose on, vent her frustration to. And I think that's what some of that is. We all we're married, or we have kids, or we have relationships. And whenever we're really stressed about what somebody else is doing, those are the people we take it out on. Do you know what I mean?
So in this case, Red and Liz are besties?
Kinda. I mean, I think she looks to him as a father figure. And just like my daughter gets mad at, and I'm just going to take this, my daughter, because now somebody will be like, see, he is her dad. Whatever the case is. Whatever the relationship, if my daughter's mad at somebody else, she yells at me. Now, I have nothing to do with it, but she takes it out on me. Now, I think she has a little bit more reason to throw Red into the mix here, but there is some of that. And I think some of that would make sense even in the real world. I'm not saying that maybe we should probably lay off of it for a couple, because there is, I think, probably a few too many episodes where it's happened. But I'm with you. I'm okay with it chopping it up to hormonal.
And we can say clearly, as both fathers of daughters, right, that in this case, if Red was Liz's father and she started spewing off like that, and Red clearly said, let's not do this here, let's get in the car, and she kept going, as fathers, you'd grab her shoulder and shove her in the car.
Sure would. Sure would. But obviously without causing any marks.
Right.
Because as fathers, we know we always go for the stomach. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Don't write a letter. All right, so Liz didn't do much else this episode except stay by Tom's side. And that kind of brings us full circle to Tom again. Okay, I have said I was talking to my friend.
You're not a fan of the Liz and Tom relationship. We know. We've heard it 100 times. Moving on.
I know. Let me tell you a conversation I had with an avid listener, Paula. She listens to both our podcast and watches the show avidly. And, she was asking me, how do you feel about the Liz and Tom thing this week? And I said, I don't really want to bring it up on the podcast because I don't want to beat a dead horse. And her statement, which I think is very funny, was, well, if they're the ones that keep beating it, so I think it's okay if you beat it too. To a degree, I agree with her. I'm sick of this storyline. Just Tom is redeemed. This whole thing, I said it last week. I don't want to go on a tangent about it, but it's just not working for me. I just don't buy it.
And let's be clear, the adoption video that she's watching is the same one from season 1 that she's watching back then, when Tom was still playing his role as I'm just here as an assignment. She's not your wife, she's your target, if we remember that line from season 1. So at the end of the day, is he really redeemed? Sure, he might love Liz. Sure, he might want to raise the baby. But at the end of the day, he is still Jacob. He is not Tom Keene. And we do not know what Jacob is all about yet.
Exactly. So still don't love it. I don't love it. But, they're going to do whatever they're going to do with the storyline, and I will follow it, and I will see how it comes out. And maybe, there's a real divisive group, a real divided group, I should say, in regards to Tom. Like, people are really split on where they stand with Tom, which I think is kind of also cool, because there's a lot of people that love Tom, and I definitely want to speak for them too. There are people that absolutely love this relationship. They love seeing that Tom has, in their minds, redeemed himself. They love seeing that this couple is trying to find a way to make it work throughout the thick and the thin, and I think it's worth noting what their stance on it is as well. I don't share it, but I do appreciate where they're coming from.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Tom and Liz together concept. I'm a fan of Tom as in Tom, John McClane Tom. Tom, Russian Fight Club Tom make jokes when he's holding people captive in chairs and beans and, soy soap and all that stuff. That's the Tom I want to see. I want to see more rough and gruff Tom.
Exactly.
I don't want to see German Tom, but rough and gruff Tom.
You mean Nazi Tom?
Yeah, no.
Racist Tom?
No.
Yeah, you don't want that. No. There's no place for racism on any TV show anymore. Come on, it's 2016. Red. Fujo Kimo? Huh? I really want to know when that's coming back. It's something that I know I already mentioned it. I'm mentioning it again because I think that's going to come up really soon.
I think we're going to have to order some for the season finale party and try it out.
Can we not? Because if it would kill me, I really don't want any.
Hey, as long as you go first.
Wow, you're kind of a jerk. All right, the name Pops. I don't like that. I know Red seemed to appreciate it, but my son calls me that when he wants me to beat his ass. So I am not a big fan. It's always you know what? Dad and I are having a disagreement. I'm going to call him Pops. Hey, what's going on, Pops? Because it just instantly makes me go, ah. So every time I heard it, I'm just like, ah.
This week on How Not to Parent with Troy and Aaron.
Exactly. Oh, my kids are wonderful. All right, he bailed Tom out again. I guess the big question, ultimately, because he doesn't seem to do anything, even if he loves people, without a selfish motive, why? Why do you think he did that?
The only thing I could think of is that he knew how pissed off Lizzie was at him. So I think this was Red's selfish motive to say, and I'm assuming I understand your question correctly, that he needed to save Tom in order to get Lizzie back on his side.
Okay, that's why you think it was.
Yep.
I agree. I truly do not think Red would do that unless there was a personal reason, a selfish reason for it.
Yep, agree 100%. Now, some people have postulated that Tom...
Whoa, look at the big brain on Brad.
Some people have said, fine, that...
No, big words are cool, man. I know what it meant.
Some people have postulated that
What does Poctoba mean? That's really what's important.
Exactly right. That Red might be Tom's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that Red knows, but Tom doesn't know. So you could say he bailed him out because of that theory. Potentially, you do whatever you want for your son. But I clearly, in the concept of the show and the structure of the show, he did it specifically to get Liz back on his side and believing in him again. Just like he did in season 2. There was like that one moment where it was like, I did this, and she flipped around like 100% the next week.
That's a good option.
Which goes back to does Red actually care for Liz, or is it all just a game at the end of the day?
Oh, let's not start that again. I think he actually cares for her. I don't necessarily think I do agree with you, though, that he did it just to get Liz back on his side, because she was obviously, mad and stomping her feet and stuff, so.
Right.
Yeah, that wasn't going well.
You did it, didn't you?
Which is funny because everybody's like, man, we can't stand that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, my daughter does that. That's exactly how she acts. So as I'm watching that, I'm like,
that's exactly
this
how
is
you
what
hear
my
it.
kid does.
Like,
that's how you hear it, yeah.
Exactly right. She's
exactly
like, did you do something to Tom? And all you hear is, what'd you do? It's your fault.
It's funny. Being a parent is magical. Was after Drexel... Red was after Drexel because he was commissioned to do this painting, a very specific painting that was meant to be found by Red himself, which I thought was kind of funny. So apparently this was planted out there so Red would come looking for it, and eventually he was the one supposed to find it. So I guess let's talk about this painting.
Well,
right?
Yeah, so the first thing that when this painting and artwork and all this concept was coming up, sure, you have the file and that Restova on the brain and all that jazz, but remember the last time we had the artwork in play, and it was like this cat and mouse game of stealing art and leaving art and effigies and all of that was Madeline Pratt. So I'm wondering if this is a weevil back into the Madeline Pratt storyline. And it's a red herring because maybe Madeline Pratt...
I get what you did. Red herring. I got it.
Yeah, maybe it's a way for Madeline Pratt's storyline to come back in, and we're thinking it's Restova, and it's completely like a off the track to not see Madeline Pratt coming. Because remember, Madeline Pratt stole the Storm of the Seas artwork from Red, and then left him the effigy that had the Russian nuclear missile locations in it. So maybe this is another way for Madeline Pratt to come back into the story again. Unless I completely sound stupid because she died in the episode she was in earlier this season, and I completely forgot.
God. Okay, I didn't get any of the Madeline Pratt out of that. I was just kind of looking basically at the painting. So that's cool that you made that kind of connection. That's not where I went with it. I mean, just basically looking at the painting, and you can find it online. If you go to our Facebook group, I think it was Sonia, definitely took screenshots and put it up, and I definitely think you should go check it out. It's really cool. Here's what I got out of it. My first question is, everybody is just automatically assuming that it's Liz, right? Are we sure it's Liz? Maybe it is Katerina. Maybe, I know it's the same haircut as Liz, but we've heard 100 times how Katerina looks like Liz.
Right, and art is and that's the whole point of why they had to set up this art concept, to make you remember that art is in the beholder, right? I look at it, I see this, you look at it, you see that. Right. So the three things that I particularly come out right away was it's a literal depiction. I'm coming for you, Reddington, you're going to die, and this is Liz standing over your grave. I'm coming for you, sucker. I'm going to get you, sucker. Or it's kind of a recreation of the fire scene and stating that Liz is in the picture, but Liz shot the man, but the man she killed was Reddington. Why Reddington's in the grave, and why it's a Russian cross on top of the gravestone specifically. And so the imposter red that we know, if you're going back to the imposter theory, is like, oh crap, somebody knows the truth, which goes back to what I think, I can't remember who it was that said, maybe it's the real Reddington in the file concept. Or number 3, that clearly it's the I have to kill myself as Reddington in order to make the persona of me as the female for my mother theory to work.
Oh, Jesus. Well, you had to get there somehow, didn't you?
Yes.
Or there's the option that this is basically just showcasing the night of the fire. It's all in red. There's a lot of red. Looks like flames.
Which could be blood, too. I mean, initially I thought it was red because of blood. And then when I saw the chalk outline, then I was like, okay, maybe this is the night of the fire, and the red is the fire.
Yeah, it could be fire. Some of the black, because you'll see like a black silhouette like to the upper left of Liz, and it kind of almost looks like blinds, so it could be blinds because there were blinds in that flashback, if you remember that.
Oh, the black streaks that are going from center of the painting to the left?
Yes.
Okay.
That could be blinds. That could be, there's some people that are theorizing that there's a man with a hat in, like, vaguely. Keep in mind, a lot of this is just context. It's like Troy said, it's what you want to see. So is this what we want to see? I don't know. But the Russian cross, I think, is very important. I don't think we know exactly why it's important yet, but that's a good point. The fact that it's Reddington on the tombstone. If it is Liz, in fact, it's Liz looking over a dead Raymond Reddington. There's a lot of different ways you can look at it. You can look at it like it's being fortuitous, right? Like you're saying, Liz is eventually going to be standing over your grave, Reddington, which that's what it could mean. It could mean that the real Reddington is already dead. That's what it could mean. There's just several different ways this could be taken.
Yeah, it could be Katerina herself standing over Reddington's grave, and Liz actually killed Reddington. Mm-hmm. The original Navy Reddington.
Could be. There's several different ways. So what is the theory that you think is most accurate? If you had to pick one that you're sticking to, even though obviously we can't stick to them because it's very vague. It's very vague. What's the one you're kind of sticking with? I mean,
the imposter theory still sticks in the back of my head, whether you do the imposter theory or the mother theory, whatever you want to call it. Looking at it, she's got the blood or whatever it is, or the fire burning her hand. Mm-hmm. So that's how she gets the scar on her hand. So I think it's supposed to be adult Lizzie as a memory of the night she was in the fire, and it's her killing Reddington the night of the fire. The real Reddington is what I get out of it.
Okay, so here's what I got out of it, right? This is my of all the theories that are out there, and there's a bunch, and I think we mentioned most of them. There's still several, and I'm sure you guys, that's why we asked the question, what is your interpretation? Because there's a lot of different interpretations. Mine is that the background, everything encompassing Liz and the gravestone is meant to remind you of that fateful night, right? And this is a fortuitous painting to me. This is Liz finding the truth about whatever happened on that night. That ultimately what happened was because of Red, not that it was because of Red, and that his death is going to be from her hands. That's why you see her hand almost bleeding. So my theory is this is fortuitous. The background is her memory of what happened, her finding the truth about what Red had to do with what happened that night with her parents, her finally killing Red. So I think this painting is kind of like very fortuitous of the end of the show almost.
Oh,
That's my personal feeling.
almost like it's a future thing, like what's his name from Heroes, pitting the future, that she finds out the real truth, and because she finds out the real truth, she ends up killing Reddington himself.
Correct.
The Red we know today.
Yep. My theory is that Liz is going to find, like, this painting is meant to say, this is my theory, that this painting is meant to say Liz is going to find the truth about what you had to do with her parents' death, and she's going to kill you herself. That's my theory.
I like it. That's a good one. I didn't go that way.
Well, no, because you always go the weird way.
I do.
So I'm sure there's probably in your mind somehow there's a connection to something, a blowfish.
Yep.
Probably a blowfish, something along those lines. And apparently Liz is probably actually Tom. I mean, there's a million different ways you can go.
Right. You know, the head is Lizzie, the body is Kaplan, the bottom is Rostova. It's all one person. You get really deep here.
Oh, that's great. So definitely, I want to know what everybody else thinks. What's your interpretation of this painting? That's our profiling question of the week. We really want some cool responses, so be sure to send them in. And I think, is there anything else in this episode you want to talk about?
No, I think that'll cover it. I mean, the painting was the big thing. And, of course, the new mystery lady that was looking at the video exhibit. I wonder if she'll be back.
Now, you don't think that's Katerina, right?
The first thing I was like, if that's Katerina, that's way too easy. And you would not introduce somebody that's been built up so much over the last season and a half in that manner. And she looked too young. I mean, I would assume she would be closer to Red's age or just under Red's age. She looked way too young in order to be Katerina.
Yeah. Oh, so excited. I'm really curious how this is going to go, man. I'm really pumped. I think we're going to get some serious answers. I know people, keep saying they want to know what the connection is. I think, do you want to take a bet right now on if we're going to get the connection between Red and Lizzie before the end of the season, or do you think they're still going to hold till the end of the show?
Well, they've been doing so much reveal in these expositions, and again, you have to believe in the Red doesn't lie to Liz theory to make it seem like it would be true. I have to think that they would what would really make this awesome of a show is that they would be willing to do the reveal and tell you, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, right? Would you still watch the show if you knew what the connection was? If they would reveal the connection at the end of this season, and it sets up something bigger for this 2017 war that's coming, and then the war becomes like 4, 5, 6. Like the first 3 seasons was to get to the connection that's really then sets up the ultimate battle, and the ultimate battle becomes seasons 4, 5, and 6 down the road.
That's possible. That's possible. I'm going to say I think we're going to get not necessarily 100%, but I don't think Lizzie's going to know, but I think the audience is going to know that Red is responsible. That's what I think. I think this painting, for me personally, is setting that up. That we're going to find out that Red is ultimately has a hand in what happened to her parents.
I have a feeling there's
a negative hand, not anything like he was just there. I think he's part of the reason why it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I have this deep in my gut feeling because, I mean, we know that there's people that are connected to the Fringe universe that are working on Blacklist. Lost Season 3, Fringe Season 3, Alias Season 3, they were such pivotal, I can never say that word. They were such
Really?
large...
You can say postulate, but you can't say pivotal?
I can't say pivotal. I don't know what it is.
I don't either, you weirdo.
Those 3 shows in the end of Season 3 was such a pivotal shift in the show that when that season finale happened, you were like, I have to watch next episode right now. And I just have that feeling like that's coming for the end of Season 3. Such a monumentous change is going to happen. You're going to be like, what just happened?
Momentous or monumentous? What did you say?
Ginormous.
Are you making words up?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious big.
Oh. They're making another Mary Poppins, by the way.
That's why
what the hell is that?
I threw that in there just for you.
Don't mess with things like that. Leave them alone, Hollywood.
But Emily's playing it. It's going to be good.
Well, they better remake that movie right. Cheap plug.
Cheap plug.
All right, well, the show's not over, so don't go anywhere. But please remember to download the Blacklist Exposed app for iOS and Android, and be sure to go even deeper into the mystery of Red Reddington by visiting our partner Blacklist site, the Blacklist NBC. Don't forget to be on the lookout for the pre- and post-show blabs hosted by Special Agent Rory. Look for those. They can be found on the Blacklist Exposed Facebook group or over at theblacklistnbc.com. And click the Blacklist Live from the menu bar. I do want to mention on the painting, I was talking to Suzanne, friend of the show, and we both agreed that it was very reminiscent of a Night Gallery episode. If you've never seen that, I definitely make sure to check it out. It's really cool. It was the old Rod Serling show. Did you ever watch that show?
I did not watch that show. It was probably before my time, right? It was early 70s? It was the one that was like the anti-Twilight Zone show, if I remember correctly.
Not so much anti-Twilight Zone. It's just more like a horror version, like not sci-fi, more horror.
Yeah, weird, but more in the satanic witchcraft horror universe versus science fiction universe.
Right, and there was a style. One of the episodes consisted of a painting that's very stylized, very similar to how this one was done, and how just everything is very vague, but also very prominent. It was just very cool, and it made us both think of that. I just thought that I had to mention that while I was thinking about it. And also, I started Fringe, Troy. Thanks, you finally beat me down enough to start that stupid show. Great show. I didn't mean the show's stupid. I just mean that Troy's stupid for making me watch it. Finally.
Yep, you will be pleasantly thrilled.
I've really liked it. It's really cool.
You aren't even at the cool stuff yet. Not even close.
Okay.
Just saying.
I said I started it. You can back off now. Stop riding me, man. All right. We'll be back with this week's Red's Rhetoric right after this.
Do you love video games but are tired of all the negativity surrounding the industry? Check out The Gaming Outsider, a podcast about video games by those who still love to play them. We strive to involve our community and even invite listeners as special guests to join in discussions such as what new games we've been playing, gaming news, and our weekly From the Outside In topic. The Gaming Outsider may not be industry insiders, but we take an outsider's look at our favorite hobby. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just ones that aren't for you.
Last week, 85% of you agree that sign language is indeed beautiful, making Red Sign last week's winner. And of course, thanks for voting. This week, our first clip comes when Red just happens to pop up on Rigby's doorstep.
As far as you go, Pops, whatever you're looking for, the same name.
Pops. I always liked that name. Louis Armstrong was called Pops. Willie Stargell, the legendary Pittsburgh Pirate. My Lord, that man could smack a fastball. There was Pops Foster, Pops for Oh, my. And then there are different Pops entirely. Like the Pops you hear when your shoulder's being dislocated. I need you to hop on that radio of yours and let whoever's in charge know that I'm outside.
Our second clip occurs when Red discusses how he feels about art.
I've often considered my love of art, and I've realized it's not just the art, it's the artists. I like art a lot, but I love artists. I love the stories behind their work, the characters. Lopping off ears, rankling the establishment with paintings of soup cans, often boldly revealing themselves to our keen observation and insight, our scrutiny. What a marvelous thing, the courage to create. Though I must say, nothing about your work strikes me as courageous. It seems self-indulgent, petulant, like a tantrum from a child who's just realized that the world can be a dark and unfair place.
I'm not interested in your opinions of my work. An artist's job is to speak.
And this latest manifesto, beginning with the murder of Randy Brenner, what is it that you feel so compelled to say?
You have no idea what he was doing, do you?
A work was commissioned.
That was a job.
I need to know how to find your benefactor. Now.
I don't know. It was all done anonymously. I got meticulous instructions for what to paint and where to send it.
An address. You can answer me, or I can turn that wall behind you into a Jackson Pollock.
Which was your favorite this week? Vote in the Facebook group or in the Twitter polls. If you love the sound of a dislocated shoulder or a kernel of corn, or those packing bags filled with air. Sorry, got carried away there. Vote for Red Pops. Or if you have a thing for art and artists, vote Red Art.
Okay, now we're back. Let's go to some special agent intel. Tessa checks in. It says, loved the episode. I think I rank it among the best. Great Blacklister. Right amount of canon and episodic. Great mix on character development and action. Good lines. Love Nick. Congratulations. Some episodes recently I have not loved. Some, like Alistair Pitt, I loved after second or third rewatch, and now think they should have been a two-parter, but this was nearly perfect. This again had the cinematic aesthetics that I have come to expect from the Blacklist. Also, last week's podcast was fun, weird, but a great sense of humor. If it is any consolation, Allison knew where Lady Ambrosia was going from the start.
Oh, there you go. You got another fan, Aaron.
Was last week fun?
Yeah, I thought it was fun last week.
Because you keep telling people that you were bringing the funny, and I listen. I'm like, when did Troy get funny?
And then he laughed at the same joke he laughed at the first time.
Sure did.
Andrew writes in, this was the episode I have been waiting for since the director, the best episode since that aired. I was in my seat in anticipation from the beginning to the end. I didn't even switch to Legends of Tomorrow during commercial breaks. While Drexel seemed somewhat menacing and in control in the beginning, but toward the end, and he became a starving artist afraid of Red. His weapon of choice, the NSA's Super Rat spy program, was a very cool concept. By the end of the episode, the program is far more compelling character than any of the bad guys we are introduced to. It is not all clear what was being done with all that spy footage of Samar and Ressler and the FBI team out in the field. My first thought when seeing the painting was that Red will die at Liz's hand.
Ooh, I swear I don't read these before, so I didn't know he was saying that.
Sure. It looked like what should have been her right hand was dripping in blood. That definitely looked like Liz in the painting. A compelling scene with Nick, Liz, and Tom. The look on Nick's face when he said he knew what Liz meant by not being able to get away from Reddington was actually really sad. Like the full weight of it was settling in on him now. I totally think Liz was playing Reddington when she took his hand and kissed him on the cheek. Oh, that's another way to look at it. Like, was she actually giving a little back to him? That's interesting. She has got a long con in mind herself. As hurtful as Tom's duplicity was with the fake marriage, I totally think she trusts him more than Reddington and wants to be away from Red. Yep, Tom is your Tom problem. I added that in there. I think that whatever happened to Reddington's family occurred before the night of the fire at Liz's house, and he took Liz as payback, a daughter for a daughter, and stashed her away with Sam. Troy, I know some people do not like the comics. I just finished reading The Gambler, but in The Last Gambler, Sebastian Royce tells Red, I don't know what your game is with her, Red, but I'd be careful. Despite what she says, she doesn't trust you, but the problem is you trust her, and if there's one thing you taught me, it's that trust is a weakness. She'll betray you one day, maybe when you least expect it, but she will. I'd bet my life on it. And he has a gun with one bullet on it, and he spins the barrel and blows his own head off and dies.
Whoa.
So
well, that went dark.
It did.
God, that went super dark.
So
well, cool. So that's another person that kind of goes along similar to what my theory is.
And it's tied into the comic book, which is cool.
Yeah, very much. Very cool.
Hey, Troy. Hey, Aaron. It's your boy Rory calling in from Jersey. Just wanted to say what's up. Great podcast as always. I wanted to touch on a new little theory that I started putting together now that we know Katerina Rostova is still around and in the picture and apparently seeming to come for Red. I started thinking about the original Cold War in the 80s when Katerina would have been working as a Russian spy and Red would have been working in naval intelligence. What if they finally figured out and got together and realized that the Cabal was behind the original Cold War, and is when they decided to start gathering information from both sides to put on the fulcrum with Leonard Call and Lizzie's father and everything else. They decided that as a group, that's what they were going to do to take down the Cabal, but the Cabal got wind of it. Cabal went, if we believe the story, to Red's house, killed his family. Red found out. He went to Lizzie's house to try to save them, and found the house on fire and the father laying dead on the floor and all that whole story. If all the stories jive together, what if that's what really set this whole thing off and they decided they needed to separate, and Red took Liz and hid her away until it was time to resurface because her life was in danger. Now they're saying, hey, listen, now that Masha Rostova has been outed, they're going to come looking for Lizzie because they want to get to her mother for information that her mother has. Just my thoughts.
All right, from the Facebook group, Crystal said, the painting was very interesting and Red doesn't seem too happy with it. Lizzie was so up and down again. The Blacklister fits with the real-world headlines. Once again, Red did what he could to make Lizzie happy. Did he, though? I didn't see the Nick being involved with Red thing. I didn't see anything that made me weepy at all, so not sure what NBC was saying about being a tearjerker. Yeah, there's a lot of advertisement that this is a tearjerker episode. I assume it's because of the Tom thing, or the end, or what?
I have no idea.
I didn't. Mostly all I did was get paranoid and start freaking out about every mobile device in my house.
Yeah,
that's what I did.
That's why I was crying. I was like, oh my God, I have so many web cameras in this place.
Exactly. I'm like, where
The work
are
I
all
have
these
to-
cameras from?
God, Saturdays are my day off. All the work
This is
I
a
have
true.
to do.
This is a true story. I have I'm a lot. I hate when I do that. I have a camera. A lot of people have like a camera that you would use on your laptop, but I don't have it plugged in, right? So it's a USB camera.
Yep.
And I didn't have it plugged in, but I had it set on the counter, and I still got it and turned it around. That's how much this episode creeped me out.
Little bit.
Yep, a little bit.
John said, damn, maybe it's the Deadpool effect, but did I really just see a bunch of FBI agents blow one guy's chest open and turn three guys' heads into canoes on network TV? I have to say, after I watched this a second time, John, I was like, yeah, the FBI raid was a little bit forceful in this episode.
Good. And I assume Deadpool effect means it was awesome.
It was.
Because Deadpool was awesome. Galia said, tired of Liz's whining! Exclamation point. Tired of Tom's BS! Another exclamation point. I think she's got emphasis on this. Hate that they want us to buy this Keen 2 love story again. The guy hit her with a chair. WTF, man. I can't say that, the whole thing. Losing all my patience with that show. I'm sorry, I really am. Loved the show before, but right now I am angry.
Exclamation point.
Exclamation point. I've seen several responses to that degree in terms of the love story. It is definitely the most divisive subject currently on the show, I would say.
And
is the Liz, not the baby, which, I thought the baby would be more. I mean, I think there's definitely people that still have issue with it. But I think the Liz and Tom love story is really, really splitting the camp.
I think people like the baby because it's become comedy now. Like Nick comes in like, holy crap.
So
funny.
far,
It's
I
so
mean,
funny.
it is. We're getting a little too much conversation about the baby. It's even being conversation between every other character when Liz is nowhere near. So, I mean, that part could probably be settled down a little bit. But the Liz and Tom storyline is really dividing the camp a lot.
Yes,
Would
it
you
is.
agree? Or
It did last year, same time, and everybody came back. Just
Well,
saying.
I never came back to Liz and Tom love story. I
You
started
stay
to
with the show, though. I mean,
Well, yeah, I still love the show. I mean, it's one relationship, and I don't think it's not going to kill the show for me no matter what. So,
correct.
yeah, I'm not really worried about it.
All right, David said, love this week's episode, and I know I'll get hate for this, but really love the Tom and Liz storyline.
No, we just did a 180 right there. We went from one degree to the other, one camp to the other camp.
We call that a Liz. I've turned on the whole baby storyline. Sorry, I tried to hold it back. I was laughing at my own joke before I said it.
2 weeks in a row, you made me laugh out loud, man. I never laugh out loud. Good job.
I've turned on the whole baby storyline. It is working within the show, and I didn't think it would.
We call
Stop
that a
laughing.
Liz.
I wondered with the painting, was it alluding to Liz putting Red in his grave or mourning his loss? Because, either way, you could look at it both ways. And did Katerina Rostova commission the painting? To be honest, I have no idea. Again, WTF, what is going on?
There's a lot of WTF going on.
That means it's a good episode.
Well, they definitely said she commissioned it, so I would assume it's Katerina Rostova. They've definitely alluded to her numerous times. I think we're going to see her before the end of the season, so yeah, I would say it's probably her.
Yep.
Nothing definitive, but that's what I think. Nate, wow! Exclamation point! All I can say is that this episode blew me away. I could see Red acquiring the software code to spy on his enemies and friends, and Liz. Aaron, that's me. You might be right about Tom. What? He's in league with an organization that Red may or may not know about. That organization will put Liz and the baby in danger, and possibly lead to the baby's death? Wow, that's...
Well, it's
I don't know, man.
That's actually interesting because we have been down this road before where Tom was in Red's employ and then decided to switch over to the Berlin side. So when he was on that boat, where did he go? Did he team up with somebody else and now he's trying to weasel back into Liz's life in order to get at Reddington from a different angle? Maybe he knows where Katerina is.
Oh, you think Tom might know where Katerina is?
Like you said, once a sociopath, always a sociopath.
I don't think he's a sociopath. I don't want to have to go into psychology with you, but sociopath does not get better.
He's not better. He's the same. He's still Jacob acting as Tom.
Oh, yeah. Well, if he was a true sociopath, then yes, he would actually still be a nefarious guy, and he would be playing Liz, faking
Right.
faking all this.
Yeah, it's literally like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I think
you can do that again.
I think
how many times can you do that in one episode?
Well, it keeps happening. I think this is a really good point to bring up. Maybe that's actually what's happening.
So he's a true sociopath.
Yeah, he's playing her again.
Okay,
because
that's a trick. Sociopaths don't reform. They really don't. Okay, so all right, that portrait though, Red may act like it's nothing, but it put a major chill up his spine for sure. Yeah, he sent it back too.
Yeah, he's like,
Rostova is going to be a major enemy against Red. A love spurned can do that to a lady. Oh, he's saying that she's a love. And Liz, she may be a FBI profiler, but she needs to connect the dots fast and forget this love haze that she's in before bad things happen because of Tom. I guess, real quick, let me ask you. We've heard tons of times how Red describes Katerina as though he loved her, right?
Yep.
Okay. Is it possible he was obsessed with her, but it wasn't returned?
That's a very good possibility. Alias, sorry. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true.
Okay. I just thought I'd throw that out there because it really is making me think, the more and more we get into the storyline, that maybe Katerina never had a relationship with Red, but he always wanted one. And that might have led to Liz shooting her dad, and that's why he felt responsible, da-da-da-da-da. That's why she had to fake her death to get away from Red.
Or
Red is obsessed with herself. See what I did there, long-time listeners? See what I did?
Bravo. No, maybe the redheaded lady that comes in to watch the video is younger because maybe Katerina did have Liz at a younger age. And maybe when Red's talking about, like, you can always watch over her, you could always take care of her, you could be that guardian angel, that conversation about the harbor master's daughter, maybe we're all assuming that he's talking about him watching Liz. Maybe he was watching Katerina.
Ooh, very interesting. Oh, look at all these theories we're coming up at the last second. Man, we got to be faster about that.
That's why when we say the show's not over, you got to listen to the whole thing.
That's right. You got to listen to the whole episode. You never know what's going to happen. I think that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of
Drexel.
Blacklist Exposed.
Right? Drexel.
Yeah, Drexel.
Yes.
So is there anything else you want to talk about before we hang it up?
No, I want to hear these awesome interpretations of the painting for next week. It's going to be really, really good to see what people come up with.
Okay.
Something new. Come up with your own idea. Right.
Well, or just whatever you think. I mean, if you've got just try to keep it to a paragraph because we don't want to go too crazy. We want to be able to read people's stuff.
2 lines.
Okay,
yeah.
2 lines. Paragraph is usually 4 sentences, so let's try to keep it under 4 sentences.
Right.
Short sentences, not run-on sentences. And just answer the question. How did you interpret the painting?
Sounds good.
We'll come back next week, and we'll hear what you guys had to say.
Woo! Take care, guys. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsider.com or on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.